Hi, this is Hank Green from EcoGeek.org coming to you with a little bit of footage that I found from the LA Auto Show that I haven't used yet. There was a blogger / new media dinner with Bob Lutz, the Vice Chairman of General Motors. He's kind of like the guy at GM that is in charge of cars. I have a couple of clips. The first one I'm going to show you is Bob talking about the future of diesel technology in the eyes of General Motors, which is some interesting stuff. I put some subtitles at the bottom so that you can see sort of some commentary. Ladies and gentlemen, Bob Lutz.
Earlier, Chris Proof said, this will give you plenty of time, the dinner will give you plenty of time to think of intelligent questions. I actually prefer the dumb ones.
You've been on the record about the light-duty diesels, and you've obviously got a new one coming out for your SUVs and whatnot. But for the passenger car side, the 50-state legal diesel, you said that there's some barriers there that really cost-wise prohibit that.
I was asked the same question in London last night, which seems like about a week ago right now. And they said, why don't you Americans have more diesels? And I said, well, are you guys dealing with Euro 5? And they said, oh yes, Euro 5, most difficult. Now we have US Bin 5, which goes into effect in 09, which is right around the corner. US Bin 5 is 6 times tougher to meet than Euro 5. First of all, you're going to have to use urea, which involves a whole another fluid that you have to put in the car. No, you still have to use rest stops. You cannot replenish the urea the way you're thinking. All of this somewhat deteriorates the fuel economy gain that you get from a diesel because you're diverting some of the fuel to this post-combustion process. And the other problem is it adds about 2,000, according to our present estimates, when we look at all the plumbing and the hardware, right now it looks like about $2,500 to $3,000 of added cost above what was already about a $2,000 to $2,500 premium for a diesel engine versus gasoline. It's going to be very difficult to justify the fuel savings from diesel engines, which are no longer going to be 25 or 30%. They're going to be more like 18 or 20%. Meanwhile, the gasoline engine, we're getting to what Mercedes-Benz calls diesauto, which means a combination of the diesel cycle and the Otto cycle, or we call it homogeneous charge compression ignition, where you get a gasoline engine to operate without a spark plug at very, very high compression ratios, and you're basically making a gasoline engine operate on a diesel cycle, which will give us about another 8 to 10% on a gasoline engine. And at that point, they almost converge. And the gasoline homogeneous charge compression ignition engine is going to be far easier to emissionize than a diesel. So that is our view of the world right now. Having said that, we're making a massive commitment to diesels just in case it turns out to be the technology of choice. Right now, you have to develop everything. You've got to work on fuel cells, you've got to work on advanced gas, you've got to work on electric, you've got to work on hybrids, you've got to work on advanced diesels, because nobody knows where it's going to end. And our guess is it's going to be a blend of all of those technologies. I personally love the new generation of diesel engines because they've got a lot of low-end torque. Everything Americans know about the old style diesels with the clattering noise and the poor performance, it's exactly the opposite now. There's a lot of attraction to diesels, but as I say, from an emissions standpoint, a lot of problems.
And that's what Bob has to say about diesels. And his opinion is pretty important because he's the guy who decides whether they make these cars or not. Now, my opinion, of course, differs slightly. It is, however, true that the United States treats particulate emissions and NOx emissions much more strictly than Europe does. This is mostly because of the way that we have built our cities, and thus we have bigger problems with smog than Europe does. While Europe's standards regulate carbon heavily because they care about global warming, we don't regulate carbon heavily. So our regulations make it a lot easier to build gasoline cars than diesel cars. And that's kind of where we're at right now. That doesn't mean that I don't think they should be investing in the technology, and I'm glad they are. I wish they were more, and really I wish that I could buy a diesel-electric hybrid now, please. Bob later talked about GM's electric car, the Chevrolet Volt. That video is the next in this series.